touching on the Mayo Louth game, obviously, Stevie. What did you? Obviously, Louth kept it tight. Frustrated Mayo. Blanket defence again. We've had this discussion as well with the Mayo team, present and past, that they've struggled, or we've struggled with breaking it down. That might, against the better teams, well, we kind of play that kind of system as well. But what's your opinion on it? Did you learn anything new from Mayo or Louth, or what do you think?
Roscommon also beat them in the championship playing that way, and which is interesting, Now, we had this conversation with Seven Step. I personally don't think it was. I don't see it as a negative from Louth, right? Because what Louth are doing is they're making themselves competitive. Okay, they're giving themselves a chance to stay in the game, go down the home stretch, and possibly nick a win, right? And it's nearly like a smash and grab. And by doing that, they decided they were going to concede the majority, if not all, of the kickouts.
Yeah.
So what you're doing there is you're eliminating Mayo's sort of lower body running power, where for me, Mayo are one of the most strongest running sides in the country, when the likes of Durkins and Full Flow and, O'Connor and these guys, like, they can rip you apart. They can really, really rip you apart. They've got a lot of really, really good, strong running power. And if you go man to man on a press high and Mayo win the ball in the middle third and it's a 1v1 duel or it's a 2v2 duel, you're in massive trouble, especially with the conditioning levels and the athleticism of some of these players now. And they can just turn and burn you, and you're in big, big danger. So Louth eliminated that threat, obviously, by dropping off and playing a very deep line defensive zonal system. The big issue for Mayo, from my point of view, is they have some very, very smart players. Ryan O'Donoghue is probably one of the smartest forwards they have. His guile, his movement, his explosive agility, it's on par with any forward. He's a really, really, really smart individual. But I just felt collectively Mayo were very, very one-dimensional from an attacking point of view. And you had talked about the lack of a structured attack. Derry, for example, it might not necessarily be at 100 mile an hour, but it's very, very pointed. It's very, very deliberate. Their attack is very, very deliberate. They know exactly how they're attacking. They know exactly how they're going to break down the blanket defense. They're going to really, really flood the opposition's final third. They're going to maybe overload one side. They're going to create clusters. They're going to create 1v1 duels. They're going to bring the ball to the corner. They're going to bring the ball to the sideline. They're going to bring it to the end line. Mayo just didn't ask those questions of Louth, and that was a big, big disappointing thing for me. Very, very easy to bring men back. It's very, very easy to bring men back and have them organised. That's the easiest part of the game. The hardest part of the game is obviously making that transition from defence to attack. And that's probably actually where Louth probably struggle a little bit as well, to obviously post a big number, because 110 is probably not going to win you a game of football. 111. The modern game of football now, particularly in summer ball, it's going to take the guts of 16, 17 points or maybe 18 to win a big game, and that's where I feel Mayo could just falter. I still think, in my honest opinion, I know we're going to do our rankings very, very soon and where we see the top 5 at the minute. I still think Mayo are probably number 1 based on the fact that they've probably shown a high degree of consistency throughout the league and throughout the championship. But Sunday worried me. It really, really worried me from a Mayo perspective that, wow, like before the game, I was thinking Mayo are really, really close here this year. They're the standout team so far, but Mayo are going to come up against stiffer, tougher, sterner, and more athletic challenges than Louth, and that's the worrying thing from a Mayo perspective.
Yeah, look, it was interesting from Rochford. Stephen Rochford had comments after the game saying, it was disappointing. We felt we didn't get going or our attack and all that. But in terms of, there's a few things in that, Steve. In terms of the game management, I thought a positive thing for me was the game management in terms of towards the end. I know Louth scored 1-1, but I think there was a stage in the middle. It was about 65 minutes gone, and Mayo, I'd say, were 4 to 5 points up, and they were keeping the ball a bit like Roscommon, and Louth were back in their own 65 waiting for Mayo to attack. And I think maybe I'm wrong here, maybe someone can correct me here, but I think the crowd started booing Mayo because they weren't attacking, and I'm just like, what the fuck, what's going on here? We're 5 points up here, let Louth come out. It's going to be easier for us to attack. This fucking champagne football, or whatever you want to call it, is in flamboyant, hammer, hammer, hammer. Like, at the end of the day, you want to get over the line. We're 5 points up. Let Louth come out. We have. There's only 10 minutes left in the game here. I did not get that at all. And Mayo, they attacked and they drew a free out of it. But in my eyes, I would have kept that ball for 3-4 minutes. If Louth didn't stir, well, we're winning the game here. And also with Rochford's comments as well after the game, this has been an ongoing thing in terms of the Mayo attack, in terms of a blanket defence. Like, they know, like, how easy is it in training to set up for this, in terms of practice this over and over again, and get into the bloody dressing room before your practice session and go through what you want to do as a collective unit, and go through before you go out, and then obviously execute it when you go out there. To me, I don't know, is it like, we say, when I was playing, it's always players need to be challenged. I'd be challenging the coaching staff there, in terms of, I didn't see anything different there. If I was a player, I'd be saying, right, what are we doing here as a collective here? Because the next day against Cork, it's going to be the exact same fucking thing here. And the whole thing of saying, having these buzzwords of saying having patience and keep it wide. Well, what the hell does that even mean here, lads? What does that mean really? Tell us, what's the next step here? These are buzzwords here, but as a collective, there's going to be 12 players. We're going to be facing 13, 14 players, total team behind the 45 here. What do we want to do here as a collective? And that's the situation in terms of the next couple of weeks, where the Mayo coaching team have to come together and sit down, because obviously this has been an ongoing thing for Mayo for the last 2 or 3 years. Not even 2 or 3, the last fucking 10 years, to be honest with you. And we still haven't gotten it right. Some teams have, but Mayo, that's our Achilles heel still to this day. In terms of, you see it in an open country there. When Mayo gets a quick transition ball, there's no one in the country that's going to touch them, because we have the best athletes in the country in terms of transition ball, getting that kick pass away. Loud struggle on that in terms of transition ball. They didn't have the skill set. They didn't have the athletes either to get that quick transition. That they turned over the ball a bit. But you could see even the first half, the Butcher goal chance, Enda took an extra solo, or the solo went awry and the goal chance went away. Even we say another, like, you see how dangerous Mayo are in terms of the transition ball, in terms of when they get a turnover, it is bloody blistering pace going up the field. But again, I would like to see, we'll say, as you said there, a structured attack. What's going to happen here in terms of that? I know that's probably a bit of a rant there, but it's really, I just see that.
I'm sure you feel very passionate about it, because you've been talking to me about it for a while now, and you're obviously, it's something you know Mayo football a hell of a lot better than I do and ever will do. And I know that you've been speaking about this, and even through the National League when things were going well, you talked about, Mayo's, you're worried about Mayo and those clutch moments where the game's level, it's 13-all, it's 15-all, you need a score. Never on Sunday at any stage when I was watching Derry and Donegal, for example, never at any stage did I feel Derry weren't going to break Donegal down, even though Donegal had those huge numbers back. Donegal obviously were the template from, McGuinness's reign, where it was, the deep line defensive zonal system. Obviously Pillar Caffrey brought it into Dublin in 2011, and they won an All-Ireland on the back of that in 2011, where the two wing backs were very static and didn't really attack, and obviously kept a very, very rigid, defensive system. And then McGuinness took it to a whole new level, obviously, in the semi-final that year, in 2011. But for me, and my concern for Mayo is that they actually are fixing part of their problem as well, and the fact that they have actually become a bit more defensively sound. They've become more defensively resolute, and they've started to obviously defend in greater numbers. They're scrambling harder, with a bit more organisation about defensively than they would have previously had. They're not going with the whole man-to-man, all over the field, from minute 1 to minute 70, and that's not sustainable, as we know. So they are learning in that respect. Their game management has improved, but you will not win the big prize without having some form of a set play offensively, or having some form of patience where, you're bringing the ball to the corner, you're finding little pockets, you're getting cuts going, you're getting decoy runs going, you're getting hard runners coming off the sailing, whatever needs to be happening. And that's something that I think they need to improve on over the next few weeks. And listen, it's probably good because they've won 2 games, so they have qualified. I think, am I right in saying they have qualified as group winners unless Louth beat Kerry, which is highly unlikely because Kerry and
Yeah,
them, they've beaten Kerry. So on a head-to-head, even if Cork were to beat Mayo, on a
yeah,
head-to-head, Mayo are going to finish above Kerry. So they have won the group. So next week's a great opportunity for them to actually do, or 2 weeks, to do a bit of work over the next few weeks in the training ground, as you say, with the coaches,
yeah.
and get these work-ons then motoring when they play Cork.